What is going on, everybody? Welcome in. Only 2 UFC cards left in 2023. Next week is our main entree. We got UFC 297. That is a big one in Vegas to close out the year. This one kind of like a little combo appetizer, some potato skins or something, and that you get at a restaurant beforehand. UFC Vegas 83 here from the Apex facility this weekend. I think it is a pretty good main card, though, and a lot of guys trying to get a paycheck before the holidays. So Matty Tanner and I are both here to break it down. So I got to bring in my friend, the man, the myth, the legend, the long shot legend, I should say. Matt, how you doing this today? Although I know it's probably not great considering how the Eagles played on Sunday.
Oh man, today and yesterday has probably been the most depressed I've ever been in this entire year as far as from a gambling perspective.
For sure.
My Eagles got mucked. My NFL card went down the gutter. My UFC card was literally one of those nights where I felt like I had so many great reads and was seconds away from cashing so many long shots. All I'll say is thank God for Sean Brady round 3 submission plus 1,600, because if I didn't hit that, it would have been a really bad night, and it was still a bad night. But that did bring me back, brought some life back into me. That was such a good play. I loved that play before the fight started, and it played out literally exactly. I didn't know he was going to get it late because I was getting a little nervous, but I knew he could wear him down, get the takedowns, and I was happy that played out. But man, the Zach Reese fight, armbar submission, has it locked in, then he gets slammed on his head. And then what was the other really bad beat I took? Which one was it?
Well, I mean, there were a lot of folks that I know in the betting sphere. They took a bath on Puna Soriano. I was here last Tuesday saying, "Hey,
that was a bad read. That was a bad read on my part. Yeah. So like I had a couple bad reads. That was one of them. And then the other really bad read I had was on which one was it? The Joaquim Silva fight. That's another one where I had that round 2 submission. He has the guillotine locked in. I thought it was as tight as it gets. Clay Guida just slips out of it after 3 straight times of trying. That was another what I felt like was a good read, and he couldn't get it done. If I would have hit that one or the Zach Reese submission or even inside the distance, I would have had a positive night and a good day. But that's how it goes sometimes. And then I feel like I had bad reads betting against Misha Tate, betting against betting on Soriano. Those were probably two of my bad reads of the night. And then Beneil Dariush, I just feel like his chin's gone after all of that Oliveira fight, and we should have saw that coming. So that was again another bad pick, but all we can do is move on.
Yeah, I mean, like the unfortunate part about working in small samples, which is what you do in UFC, we see Beneil Dariush get knocked out by Charles Oliveira. I didn't alone from that fight think that his chin was wavering in any way. 34 years old, fought well against Toni the fight before that. Yeah. Now we see that really his punchability, it's a concern. And as he's aging, now we have that data and that trend as we get to his next fight, whenever it might be.
I saw some MMA pages trying to match him up with who was it? You're gonna laugh at this. Damn it, who was it? God of War.
Oh, interesting. Well, so are we trying to murder the man? Is that
that's literally exactly what I thought right when I saw that. I was like, damn, that's a brutal matchup after getting, KO'd 2 fights in a row. The fight Benoit Saint Denis, like right after that. But I would love to see that fight, truthfully. Because I think, he would hold his own on the ground, but I think he would get murdered.
Yeah, it's a good step up. And Matty, if you could put up the comment about Armin, that was a great combination by Armin. It was almost like a half Superman punch on the tie clinch in the right hand. I use chin very loosely. It's a combination of both striking defense and the ability to take a punch. And like Dariush left himself wide open in that exchange. It was a great creative punch, but like, when you're an old dog, those are kind of the new tricks that you end up falling for against these guys like Tsarukyan. And I think Tsarukyan definitely next in line after Oliveira now, if he doesn't even jump cut ahead of him. So,
a lot of people thought that knee was what originally stunned Dariush, and then the punch to the chin after is what caught him. But like, it was literally just a punch. That knee was almost like a decoy. I don't even think it connected. If it did, it like barely brushed his face, and then he just took. You take 34 years old, taking a straight shot right here.
Yeah, no way.
Forget it. He was done.
So. Sorry, Yukin's a freak athlete. So,
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're moving on. And I think especially as we get onto the main card, a lot of veterans. I was able to run my model on a few of these. I don't feel comfortable, and I'll say why. But we start in the early prelims, always a little bit dicey. This one, it may be especially a little bit more so because we have a couple of fighters that didn't even win on the Contender Series facing off at women's strawweight here. Rayanne Amanda taking on Talita Allen Carr. Amanda faces D. Gomes in the 2022 Contender Series. She goes and gets 3 regional wins since she's back in UFC. I think now we see what Gomes has turned into. Probably deserved a second chance at some point. And then Talita Allen Carr, Dana White took both of them from the draw in the 2023 Contender Series, both her and Stephanie Luciano. So we saw her in the octagon not too long ago. Do you have a specific lean in this fight? Because I don't think it's particularly interesting, but I do have a lean.
Yeah, so like Alan Carr says super good BJJ.
Yep.
You know, she reminds me of is who's the short little BJJ chick that you always have your concerns she's strong enough to finish those submissions. You know what I'm
Oh,
talking about?
I mean, when you say strong enough to finish those submissions,
Just kind of undersized.
the girl
I'm
that beat
blanking.
Ruiz, the girl that beat Ruiz.
Yeah, she had the round 3 TKO.
Yes, exactly. Jacqueline Amarine.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, she kind of reminds me of that. She just transitioned to MMA a couple years ago. She's
For sure.
tiny. She has good BJJ, but she's a bet an underdog here.
Mhm.
So like I want to see, I want to see what the submission prop looks like on this, but this is a
Interesting.
tough fight to predict.
Yeah, it definitely is. And like Rayanne Amanda has been fighting regionally at atom weight, which is a weight class UFC doesn't even have at 105 pounds. And like, I think that would be probably Alan Carr's natural weight class as well. 5'1", 58-inch reach. Like she's got very obvious size concerns, a little bit with what we saw back in the day with a little bit of a throwback. Brianna Van Buren, very skilled, kind of tiny. And that's what we saw with Alan Carr. She went just 4 for 24 on her takedown attempts on the Contender Series. She really gassed badly in that fight against Luciano. And Luciano was more of a Muay Thai fighter, decent jiu-jitsu defense, decent takedown defense. But like Rayanne Amanda has like 8 pro wins via submission. Like she's very confident and comfortable in that domain. Like I see Amanda as the significantly better striker here. I think she's
Yeah.
larger. I consider her an appropriate favorite, but like I think Maddie's approach is dead on. Like maybe you look at Alan Carr round 2, round 3 sub, or you take Amanda by knockout in those later rounds as well. Like I want tiny nibbles at this fight. I don't really want to lay money lines. I don't really want to lay totals. Like we
Yeah.
don't really know what we're getting from either of these ladies.
Yeah, I mean, so Alan Carr round 2 sub plus 1500, round 3 plus 2100. The
Mhm.
round 1 is 10-1. And then Dos Santos
Do you have
by
a
what would
total?
you play?
Do you have a total?
Yeah.
I'm guessing
Look
over two and a
here.
half is like minus 275.
I don't even see that available yet. But probably let me see. Goes the distance is minus 160. So
Ooh, that's kind of short. That's interesting. Goes against
yeah.
the divisional trends for sure. I like Alan Carr, like you said, great BJJ. Amanda's been finishing recently as well, so that it's not overly surprising. That almost feels like a sneaky under,
Hmm.
if anything else. But like
Plus 130 to
my
not go to
concern is Alan Carr didn't even work herself into an official submission attempt when she was having success early in that fight, and they got 10-8'd in the third round. And that's my concern is like, if you're a size discrepancy and all you can do is grapple, that is an exhausting night of work, and that's kind of what we saw in the
yeah.
Contender Series. So, I don't know what Amanda's BJJ is. She goes the distance with D. Gomes, who is more of a striker. So, like, I don't know. It's I don't think it's a fight that either you and I'll have big coin on. That's for sure.
Agreed.
So, on to one that we might get a little bit more attention from here. I don't know if we actually have the Costa Garcia one racked in here, Maddie, but Tatsuro Taira. Oh, okay, they're coming. They're coming. Gotcha. Interesting. But men's flyweight now on the other side, smallest men's weight class. You and I both, I think, like Tatsuro Taira. I've certainly been impressed given his age, given some of the guys that he's fought so far. 4-0, really dominated most of his opponents in those settings. Had some dicey moments here and there, but then Carlos Hernandez
Yeah.
on the other side, he got me badly. I liked Dennis Bondar in his last fight, and Hernandez was the better guy in both domains. Got that last second TKO when he was actually unconscious from being slammed on the mat. Bondar was. So Hernandez, kind of a veteran, good win against Altamirano in his debut. Did not go his way in another fight that I'm forget. Alan Nascimento, the shoot-a-box guy, ended up submitting Hernandez. So Some deficiencies grappling. That's not great against Tyara, but he's also got the striking edge here. What do you make of this betting line here?
Yeah. No, I like Tyra. It obviously it's a huge betting line. I think it's much higher than that now,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I haven't pulled a fresh copy from FanDuel, but I saw Tyara closing in on -500. So yeah, I would agree.
For some reason, I thought I saw like 650 or something, but I could be wrong. I could
460 -460 is what we've got on FanDuel.
Okay, so it's not that bad then.
Yeah.
No, I mean I like him. Averages 2.4 takedowns a fight. Somewhat technical, but we have seen him get tagged on the feet.
Yep.
I think that's a little bit concerning here. I was actually looking at him on DFS. I was really hoping I was going to get a 1.5 number on takedowns.
Sure.
And of course it's 2. And I think I'm a little. I still want to take it, but I'm a little nervous that he
over
gets
or
into the
under.
ground.
Over or under. Okay.
Over, but I'm a little nervous on the 2 number. I would take it at 1.5. But like, I mean, how do you feel about his ability to keep the fight on the ground with this guy when he gets it there? Because that's what concerns me is if he gets it to the ground, he's able to find a finish or just bleed time of the whole round.
Yeah, so like I'm most concerned that you're one and done if you were going to take a 2+ takedown prop, because I think Tyara absolutely could go one and done here given what we saw with Hernandez against Nascimento. And like Carlos is a little small for the weight class. I don't think he's a bad grappler per se, but he's just really had problems with these one-dimensional guys. So like I don't sense like scream great value on that. Number one, because Tyara is very efficient and his top control is very good, like you said. And number two, because it could be one and done. So like I don't see that, and I'm like absolutely must hammer because I just don't feel good enough about Hernandez's
I'm with you.
Submission defense.
Yeah, I'm with you. And so Hernandez is a 65% takedown defense. You know,
realistically, it's worse than that. I think Bondar has spammed a few takedowns into him, but like Nascimento got him to the ground quickly, and like I think Alan Nascimento might be the better, well-rounded guy than Tyara at this point because he's a little bit better of a striker. But like Tatsuro's grappling is very, very good. I think the guy that if we're gonna put Tyara on upset alert, and I actually pulled this. He's been a huge favorite in basically every UFC fight.
Every single fight.
-648 on average. He's -460.
That's what it is. That's why I saw a clip on that. That's why I thought he was a -6 something favorite, but that's what his average number's been. That's what it was.
He's been a huge favorite, and like it's so far it's cashed 4 for 4. And the reason why I don't think Hernandez is the guy to pull this upset is like you have to make your moments on the feet count, and Hernandez no career wins by knockout, no knockdowns in UFC, really just hasn't shown a lot of power, and he's not very big. So like all of those things make you think I feel like Edgar Shirez is a more powerful, dynamic striker. You remember Shirez's problem against Tyra was he kept pulling guillotine like an idiot. He'd end up on bottom, or he might have been able to pull the upset if he really stuck to his striking in that fight. I don't see Hernandez having that sort of power to put Tatsuro out. It's a tough money line to lay, but I think I'm going to be looking at his round 1 sub prop.
I was just gonna bring that up. So round 1 sub +450.
I mean, considering regular sub's going to be like -105, I get it.
I think it's a good number.
I do too. I think +450 is a really good number. If that ended up making its way to FanDuel, maybe FanDuel sometimes will give you inflation on props compared to some other places. So if we got 5 to 1, that's a
regular sub +140.
Okay. That's higher than I thought it would be. I couldn't model this fight. I didn't think it would be appropriate because Hernandez's sample is so odd. But like I would guess that if I did model it based on what they have Tyara sub, I'd probably have around even money. So that's a pretty good number.
100%. I like it. A couple comments here. What's good, Austin Wood?
Yeah,
David, let's crack their heads this week. We need a bounce back week.
We need one of those +15 unit weeks where we just explode. Like it's been a long time since we had one of those.
It's been like 6 months. I had what
was
that one card? I had like a plus. It was either 14 or 17 units. I hit like crazy long. I think it was the Paul Craig card, like three fights ago for him.
Yeah,
I think that's the one it was.
We'll talk about Craig because the victim of that Craig knockout is on this card and to come. So we'll bring up Garrett. Don't you worry.
Oh my God, that fight! I can't wait to talk to you about that fight.
Yeah, I was talking to a guy who had a very salty take on what ended up winning you a lot of money. So we'll talk to that. But first, we'll get this one out of the way. Daniel Marcos Carlos Vera here actually canceled within the hour that Maddie and I were coming on the air. So this fight is now off. It was a last minute one. Here is a last minute one we talked about last week between Melky Costa, Steve Garcia.
I love this fight.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken,
Fight
Maddie,
of the night.
you and I talked about this. I had it as my fight of the night before it got wiped off, which won't like that was sad news on Friday. But I'm glad they at least re-racked it. Any concerns for you? Given I think it'll be at 155 now, based on coming back 1 week later. Any concerns for you? Probably not, because I think we both liked Costa, and it was Steve Garcia that pulled out with the illness.
Yeah, I was super pissed about Garcia pulled out in that fight because it was one of my most favorite bets of the card.
Yeah.
I liked Costa inside the distance. I liked him early, round 1, round 2, I believe it was. I mean, I was ready to hammer this dude. I just think Steve Garcia is too vulnerable to get finished in this fight, and I think Costa can, take damage. I just trust his chin more. I trust his versatility more. I think he can get ground and pound in this fight too. I just think he can win in a multitude of ways.
Yeah, I like Garcia kind of feels like he's a stock that we want to get rid of, right? Because he's won a couple in a row by knockout, and he's very powerful and big for this division. But especially coming off the illness, I had a guy that told me he liked Garcia last week, and I went back to the ledger and saw what I was missing. I don't trust whatsoever. If it's out there, Melky Costa 42% takedown defense. That damage was done by Thiago Moises, who's pretty good wrestler. It was up at lightweight, whereas these guys are both featherweights now, conceivably. And Steve Garcia, decent wrestling efficiency, 44%. But most of his wrestling came against Charlie Ontiveros. So if you remember him, he was fucking terrible. Like Gabriel Benitez finished him in round 1. So the sample is flawed. Theoretically, Costa could have takedown defense issues here, but honestly, I think Costa could grab an armbar or a triangle off his back, even if he's.
I know, and I don't think Garcia is even going to shoot takedowns. Do you?
I have no idea what his strategy to win this fight is going to be, because I give Costa the edge with jiu-jitsu. I think he's a better volume striker. I think he's more accurate. The one thing I would lean in Garcia's direction is probably raw power, but you can keep that when he's also got horrible defense and he's shown chin.
That's all he has. That's the only edge he has. And look, I went back. I watched his last 4 fights before this last card because I was ready to put a 2-unit play on Costa inside the distance. And even the fights Garcia wins, he gets tagged, he gets dropped.
Agreed.
I mean, the Chase Hooper fight, that was a gift. Hooper had no striking at the time. He's improved a lot since then.
Yeah.
But the fight after Chase Hooper, the fight before, he arguably could have been knocked out in round 1 in both of those fights, which he got knocked out. He did get knocked out in round 1 of one of those 2. My buddy Luis Pena fought Steve Garcia. That was back in 2020.
Yep.
That fight went the distance. Pena's not a huge guy. I think Costa marches forward and finishes him. And if it goes to the ground, I favor him there. So
I kind of like a submission here, bro. I was doing more research, and Elon Cruz got him with a submission regionally. That's not a dude that stuck around in UFC very long. So I don't think he doesn't really have a jiu-jitsu guy on his resume other than Hooper, who already had his face taken off by the time. And Chase can't wrestle. Chase's thing is he's going to do Omari rolls. He'll play from bottom.
Exactly.
He can't wrestle. Melky Costa can wrestle. Averages 1.87 takedowns per 15, even through the Thiago Moises fight. I think he's a really good fighter.
Yeah.
So
he has one loss by submission back in 2018, a rear naked choke he gave up. Steve Garcia gave up.
Yeah, that was Elon Cruz. That was Cruz.
Okay, got it. That's right.
So
no, I don't hate that. A round. What do you think? A round 1 or 2?
Yeah, I'd probably play 1, 2. I mean, I think you got to play violence in this fight. That's just how Steve Garcia fights. Kill or be killed from the opening bell. I don't think he's made it to a 3rd round in any of his fights. No,
I mean, bro, Costa round 1 submissions plus 900, and round 1 KOs plus 550, and then round 2 submissions plus 1400, and round 2 KOs plus 750.
I think they should be very even. So in my opinion, the submission is showing value of those 2.
I agree.
I agree with Maddie though. Safe play is probably taking it inside the distance, not having to sweat it because he could pretty much do it anywhere. So we're still aligned on that one. Steve pulled out. I didn't think they were going to re-rack this one on. I thought Steve was going to duck him. So I'm a little surprised it came back a week later. So
and
we'll move on.
Costa has 7 wins by knockout in his career, 6 by submission, 7 by decision. So very even numbers across the board.
He's a shooter box guy. You don't get out of that gym not knowing how to grapple, you know?
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that submission, bro.
Yeah. So what do you think?
Finishes were knockout. His last 2 finishes were knockout. His last submission was back in 2022.
Yeah. One of the sharpest guys I know liked Garcia last week. He's staying away this week now after the illness. So it wasn't like a super strong lean in that direction. I get the power, but yeah, that's pretty much it. So we'll move on here. We'll talk about another fresh fight since we tackled that one. How about this? Look at these gems that they give us on this last Apex card of the year. Lana Santos, maybe a few minutes of fight time to her name. She absolutely mauled Juliana Miller in her UFC debut. That was a stomping right away. And then Stephanie Edgar on the other side, dropping down to flyweight for the first time. This fight will take place, at least I've got it at 125. I know our graphic says 135, but Stephanie, I believe is, it is listed at 135. Interesting. Santos moving up in weight then, but like I thought Edgar was going to try to drop to 125. Maybe the weight cut wasn't going well, whatever it is. So I got that one wrong. I don't really think it changes my appraisal of this fight, Maddie. We've seen Edgar a lot. She's 3-2 in UFC. Santos kind of a newcomer. I think people are a little scared of the minus money in Santos' direction. Are you?
I'm not. I like the newcomer.
Yeah.
Stephanie Edgar finished in a minute into the Bueno Silva fight. I mean, that was back in 2020.
That was like the controversial tap. Remember, like she said she didn't tap, but she obviously did on the replay. It looked like, at least to me.
Yeah, no, I like Santos inside the distance here.
Yeah,
I would definitely go back and watch some footage though. That's just an early lean.
Yeah, I think your inside the distance read is spot on. All 3 of Edgar's UFC wins have come inside the distance, and then Santos looked like a wrecking ball in her first fight. Like that goes against these divisional trends, but these 2 ladies in particular are finishers. But like I look at Stephanie Edgar, I can't trust her jiu-jitsu because she was knee barred by Russian Ronda, Irina Alekseeva, very easily tapped via armbar by Mayra Buena from bottom, right? Her jiu-jitsu really isn't very good. She's kind of like a judo merchant. Like she loves those throws. She loves if she can get a hold of you and she's stronger than you, she can look really dominant. We saw that against Eileen Perez, who was a little bit out of her depth in that regard. And Perez can't really strike either, but like, I think Luana Santos showed really good stand-up in that first fight. Like, I don't have any question. She'll be the better striker here. Edgar's stand-up not very good. Santos, three wins, including a couple in LFA by submission. So, like, I actually think her jiu-jitsu is better, too. Really, Edgar would have to physically dominate this fight, to me, to win it. And, like, the fact it's at 135, to me, might make it a little bit more likely. But at the same time, I feel like Santos could absolutely... They haven't really put Edgar against someone with great stand-up yet. Santos looked like she had really good stand-up in that first fight, so it could be pretty ugly pretty quickly.
And the fight to not go the distance is minus 150. So it's like every time there's a women's MMA fight not to go the distance at minus money, it's like I almost want to blindly just take it to go the distance at plus money.
It kind of reminds me, like last night they hung that weirdly high total on Bengals Jags, and then what did we get? We got like a full blown shootout between backup quarterbacks. Like those lines. It's like everybody was going to slam a plus money over between women's bantamweights, but like these 2 are finishers. I totally agree, and I think hopefully we get good value on Santos. And I think it'd be Santos early. Edgar probably would be more so later, just because she's wearing on her the entire time. But I have a lot of confidence in Luana. I think she's just a much better MMA fighter.
Yeah, Santos round 1 KO plus 1100, round 2 plus 400.
I was not expecting that to come back north of 10-1 because I think it's very stand up. Do you think Juliana Miller or Stephanie Edgar has better stand up? That's the worst question I'm going to ask you all show. But like I think it's Miller, and Santos destroyed Miller. So it could get ugly.
Yeah. 100%.
So we'll move on so we don't have to talk too much more about that one, to a fight that I texted you about. I texted you, and then I'm like, nah, fuck that. I really don't know what to do. This fight is driving me nuts. Like I've been listening to interviews. I've been doing scouting reports. I've been contacting folks in Korea. Like I've been trying to find info on Hyung Sung Park because he's minus 460 here. And I think the real reason is because Shannon Ross has become a bit of a meme at this point. Both of his UFC losses by knockout in a combined 77 seconds. Like, you remember I texted you right before the fight when he fought Jesus Aguilar. I said, maybe we go Aguilar by KO because Ross, is so chinny. We ended up hitting that back in July on the Volkanovski Rodriguez card. You remember that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, Ross's chin is a big concern. So, like, I understand Park or anybody being a big favorite, but like in a UFC debut, there's a wide line. I've kind of gone back and forth about where the value might lie. Do you have a specific side in this fight that shows well?
Yeah. I was looking at maybe a violence bet in this one. What are your thoughts? Yeah.
I definitely think violence is inappropriate when Shannon Ross hasn't shown an ability to take a UFC punch. So until I see that, I really don't know how you'd lean otherwise.
I'm gonna look right now. So,
Yeah.
Oh wow, fight to not go the distance is -500.
Yeah. I mean, until which like the over could be cheeky because what an over or if you put up Austin's comment, I think Ross might have this one. I'm not sure. It's because like if he can survive the punch, we don't really know much about Hyung Sung Park. He comes through the road to UFC promotion. He beat Sunguk Choi back in February, but like the level of competition on that show is not very good. We saw that with Anshul Jubilee, big favorite in his debut, looked great on the promotion. Then he looked like trash once he got to the UFC octagon, right? And that's my concern here is that Park maybe isn't legitimate. Ross can take punches better than he's shown so far, and he's the much more experienced guy. But like at the end of the day, do I want to support a guy that's been knocked down 5 times in 3 fights and hasn't shown any sort of chin? When Hyung Sung actually he had this cool knockout regionally. It was like a knee, it was like a flying knee into a punch combo. So he's got power, he's willing to use his stand-up, and that's been a disaster for Ross thus far. When Jesus Aguilar had 0 career knockouts, not even really a striker, he threw 1 overhand right and dropped him. So like
Yeah.
I plus 320 is not high enough for me. I can't get to Shannon Ross. It's very chalky, but like, right?
Yeah. No, I think Park round 1 is plus 350 by knockout.
Yeah. Wow, that's interestingly long for that.
Really
that almost
long.
feels trappy given how Ross's chin has handled his first.
Yeah, these are one of those fights. You remember when I took who was it? I bet fight to win by knockout within 60 seconds and ended in like 2 minutes. That was close. It was like probably like 5 or 6 cards ago. Who was that?
I'm trying to think.
It's
Was it Alex Garov? Like, well, we took Alex.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Alex Garov to win in 60 seconds, and I think he went in like 2.5 minutes into the first round. But this is I want to see what that number is on this fight, just out of curiosity.
I'll say I understand that first round being a little wide because Park is really more of a grappler. Through the promotion, 2.23 takedowns per 15. That's on about like 7 attempts per 15. So he's really been trying to wrestle and grapple. 3.7 submission attempts per 15. Like I don't think I feel comfortable projecting Park anywhere close to Steve Erceg at this point, but Erceg was able to take down, control, and dominate Shannon Ross regionally in Australia as well. Like I like Steve Erceg a lot. But like that's another concern is like so far Shannon Ross hasn't even been able to take the punches, but what's his takedown defense look like? What's his grappling defense look like? Like I just truly I think this is one where I think I'm just gonna not have any sort of betting vetted interest. I'll just take in data. So
I'm with you.
Interesting fight here. I really wanted your perspective on this one because it is a fight that I really would value your perspective for because Kevin Jousset is the favorite here. He's coming off a win in his UFC debut, got a submission, albeit like a white level belt submission over Kiefer Crosby that was stunningly easy. That led off a pay-per-view a few pay-per-views ago. I don't remember which one it was, but ends up getting that win. He's a city kickboxing guy, working with them to try to refine his striking skills because he's a pretty good grappler. And then on the other side here, Song Kanin, UFC vet, actually got the upset win over Rolando Bedoya. I laid the Bedoya chalk in that fight. I liked Bedoya's debut against Chaos Williams. Rolando's probably a 155er in UFC, so Song was just bigger. He dropped him, ended up stealing a couple of rounds and getting a much-needed victory for him to stay in the promotion. So intriguing welterweight clash. So far, this one's scheduled to be the featured prelim as well, which means I think UFC Brass is anticipating a little bit of violence. Like, do you have like any thoughts on either of these guys that are pretty strong?
Yeah, I mean, Kevin, like to me, is going to be bigger, better reach. I think he can get the leg kicks going. I think,
Sure.
he can challenge Song's takedown defense. So I think he has a lot of ways to win this fight. The problem I have with it, I remember last time we were breaking down Song, and I was like, you can always get value on a guy that like hurts a big name fighter but doesn't win, and then everyone's like, oh, he almost finished Ian Gary.
Sure.
And then what did we do in the last fight? We took who was it?
Bedoya.
We took
Rolando.
Bedoya,
Yeah.
and I love that bet so much. And Song came out and looked great in that fight.
Yeah.
He looked really good. I love Bedoya's chin. I like his pace. I like everything about that kid. And Song just came out and gave a really good performance. I think he won a decision. I think it was.
Mhm.
Yeah, he won a unanimous decision. And honestly, he got outstruck 112-75, but
Yeah.
I think
Power.
he was just landing the bigger shots.
Exactly.
So I don't know, but this is a completely different matchup for him.
Yep.
And it's like it's one of those lines. It's like he's a plus 135 dog.
Yeah.
Like I feel like Kevin's gonna win this fight somehow.
Interesting.
I don't know. I want to watch way more footage though. I haven't spent enough time on him. And Song on someone I just can't really figure out.
Yeah, you know what? I think I might be able to help you diagnose why you can't figure him out because I couldn't either.
Yeah.
But like, it's because his competition has been so up and down. You ready for this? He has fought 3 guys that have multiple UFC wins. In fact, all of them have at least 5. Alex Morono, Max Griffin, Ian Gary. He lost really badly to all 3 of those guys, but he's beaten literally everyone else on his resume, 5-0 against everyone else. So, like, if there was a guy that gate kept the entry level of welterweight, it is him. In that, like, if you are going to be a successful UFC fighter, you get through Song. If not, he so far has been able to take it down. And like some interesting things that I noticed from him, I feel like there's a little bit of racial prejudice that comes in this, like the guys from Asia can't grapple, but like never been submitted in UFC, pretty decent 62% takedown defense. Like he was in there with Alex Morono, guy you and I really respect his grappling. Max Griffin's not bad at it, and Ian Gary is an underrated grappler as well. Like I don't think that Jusei will have nearly as much success grappling as he did Kiefer Crosby, who was like an Irish, like dirty boxer, didn't really have very, very good grappling skills. Like he was submitted in Bellator. Like that wasn't a surprising outcome at all. I think Kenan is pretty solid, honestly. I like Song in this fight. I'm surprised he's an underdog given his experience advantages. And Jusei very hittable in his debut. Just a 33% striking defense. And a guy that I really talk to and value his eye, like his eye for watching film, says Jusei is one of the most hittable welterweights on the roster right now. So Kenan's got big power. He landed a knockdown in 3 of his last 4. He's one of my favorite dogs on the card. I really like Song here. And by the way, this card initially scheduled to be in Shanghai, so this was a home game, and now it's not.
Right. To be clear, I like Song. Like I just think it's fishy that he's the dog. Like it's one of those fights. Like we go back and look at
so at all.
You don't think so?
City kickboxing guy on the other side had a flawless first round win in his debut. Jusei is just much more shiny, okay, sunken in. The reality is you're like, oh, well, he'd get dropped by Ian Gary. Remember the rest of the fight against Ian Gary, though. He got dismantled and finished in the 3rd round.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people think Song's not very good.
And see, that's the thing is I was kind of under that impression. And then the Rolando Bedoya fight just if that fight didn't happen, like if Song was coming off that Ian Gary fight,
right,
this fight would be more clear to me. But like I was actually really high on Bedoya. I really was.
I think Bedoya just didn't have the size for him. Like Rolando might be a 155er because he just didn't really have much pop in his shots. Like he was able to outpace Chaos in his debut, but Song has more effective power than Chaos Williams. I know that sounds weird, but like it's been a long time since Chaos has knocked anyone out. And Song is dropping guys regularly. So I like Bedoya a lot too. I'm with you. I was kind of won over a little bit by Song in his last fight.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm gonna go back and watch some footage.
Yeah, definitely hard fight, bro. Yeah, I
think like this. Do you like if you take Song here? You like his money line, decision prop, KO.
I like the KO.
Early or late?
Early. Just because Jusei was so hit, and like Crosby's never been a guy that has a ton of power, like regionally either. The thing is, I love targeting knockdown regression, meaning that here I can pull it up here. There's
Yeah.
so the knockdown to knockout ratio is for every 1.48 knockdowns, there's a UFC knockout. And the fact is, Song has had 3 in his last 4 fights and hasn't had a knockout. His power is due for regression for a knockout soon. And Jusei's a very hittable guy. I actually really like that particular prop. Maybe even I might play round 1, but like I've had such awful luck with the rounds lately. I think I'm just gonna leave it to knockout only.
Yeah,
I'll get a good number since he's the dog.
for sure.
So
For sure.
we're on
Oh
to a
my
really
God.
good main card.
I love
Dude, I legitimately think all 5 of these fights are very interesting. We got a lot of data on the main card here. Starts with a fight that I think you and I might be head to head on. I don't know. I don't know where you stand at this point, but I had some internal quabbles about this. Jung Young Park, a guy I really love, very profitable for me. He's 6-1 in his last 7 fights. So if you just bet him, he's been profitable, right? Some of those is a dog, some of those is favorite. I really respect his hustle. This is a huge step up for him against a guy like Andre Muniz. Broke Jacare Souza's arm, dominated Uriah Hall. The Brendan Allen, Paul Craig fights didn't go his way. You and I both, I think we faded him in both of those fights, if I'm not mistaken. At least I did. I've had a pretty good
fight?
obviously you faded Muniz against Paul Craig, but the Brendan Allen one as well. I didn't know which side of the
Well, I had. Oh yeah.
like
So
I like those
yeah,
guys. I like both of them. So
yeah.
I don't really think Muniz all of the shine comes off him for losing. I think these guys are both great. So really intriguing fight. Do you have a particular lean in this guy?
Here's the thing, bro. So here's what I'll say. First of all, do you think that Albert Duraev to Andre Muniz is really like the biggest step up in the
Oh yeah.
world? You do?
Duraev to me is pretty overrated. Just a below average divisional striker. I don't think he's been able to impose his wrestling very well. Muniz at least is very good at what he does.
Right. And that's the one challenge I have with this fight. When I tell you, bro, when I saw the odds, my mouth dropped.
Yep.
Like, because I love the Iron Turtle. I was ready to bet him. Like, not in this matchup, just in general. I love this dude. I think he's fantastic. I think he's so underrated. And I was ready to bet Park. I was like, okay, this fight to me is gonna be like a round of pick 'em. But like, I mean, this is your ultimate. This is the buy low spot of the entire card.
Agreed.
On Andre Muniz. I mean, he's fought elite guys. I mean, Brendan Allen could arguably go and be a champ within the next year or so. Like, and then Paul Craig's just a monster of a dude.
Yep.
Like, so now I couldn't believe. Like, I wanted to bet Park in this fight, but like, I'm not paying minus 200 plus on against Andre Muniz, who's going to probably be the bigger, stronger, better grappler. And I don't know if Park can put him away on the feet or not, because honestly, Nunes held his own against Brendan Allen on the feet, like for 2 rounds. Like he was actually winning a lot of the striking exchanges. Nobody even talks about that.
He did.
So this is a really tough fight. I mean, if you tell anyone a year ago that these would be the odds on this fight, I mean, the odds would be reversed.
They'd have laughed at you. They'd have laughed at you.
The odds would be completely reversed. Park would be plus 185 and Muniz would be minus 245, like guaranteed. So now, again, the value spot's Andre Muniz. I'm scared betting it though. Like I love Park's well-roundedness. I think he's really, really good. The only like not even a bad loss, but I mean anybody can get rocked by Gregory Rodriguez. Like that's not a bad loss. And he's dominated every fight since then. Literally dominated. The Eric Anders fight was close.
Maddie, his only other UFC loss, Fluffy Hernandez. That's a good pair of losses. RoboCop and
very
Fluffy.
high. Yeah. And that was all the way in 2019. That could be a different fight today.
Yeah.
Did you see who they were matching Fluffy up with?
Isn't it Alaskarov, bro?
Yeah, dude. That's another clip for another day here. But
yeah,
that fight right there, I'm so high on both of those guys. I have no idea what to do with it. I'm like blown away. Like I would bet Fluffy against anyone, like especially at plus money. And then Alaskarov, I told you how much I like this guy. I took him round 1 finish his last fight. Like, I don't know what the hell to do with that fight. I don't even know what the odds are. I assume Alaskarov's going to be a small favorite.
Yeah.
But I don't know what to do with that fight, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah.
But what side are you on here?
So I initially was like you. I leapt toward Iron Turtle just because he's been so profitable. I think he's so well-rounded, but I think I was falling for the trap that this line is trying to set here. In that Jung Young Park's value has never been higher. And you peel back the onion. Like his win over Duraev was a great dominant win over a guy who's a very capable grappler. But then before that, Joseph Holmes is a total bum, and Dennis Tululin is a total bum. So like his value is going to be as high as it is. And then Muniz, after consecutive losses, this is the lowest it's ever been for him because he started UFC with like 6 straight wins. So like there is no doubt about the value side in this fight. Now, when you talk about how they match up, I think Andre Muniz, that Jung Young Park Eric Anders fight, to me, if you have not watched it and you want to bet this fight, is a must-watch tape for this fight.
I was just going to say that.
I think Muniz is a better version of Anders in that he's more efficient with his takedowns, way more dangerous with submission attempts. And that fight was very, very close with Anders, whereas Muniz is just kind of a freak athlete for this division, bro. Like, he's not technically a great striker, but he continues. He outstruck Brendan Allen at distance. He outstruck Craig at distance because he's just a great athlete. Just sticks that jab in your face, big long reach. Like, I think the Iron Turtle is going to have a lot of. It's just a bad matchup for him, given he's been winning by submissions and he's been taking down guys who maybe aren't quite as strong there. He ain't submitting Andre Muniz. So, like, now where does the win condition lie? Is it knocking him out on the feet? And Muniz is just so good. He's so efficient with his takedowns, almost 3 per 15, 40% accuracy. Like, the interesting thing is that Paul Craig got him to the ground and pound him. I think Park's own game plan might be his undoing here if he tries to strike and doesn't try to get top control against Muniz, because that's how we've seen Andre beaten in consecutive fights. I think Park's going to believe in his hands, and I believe that'll be a mistake. That's kind of how I see this matchup playing out.
Yeah, bro. I couldn't believe these odds. I really couldn't. I'm so torn on this fight.
Yeah.
Like, I would take Park and to pick him. But
interesting.
Even that, I don't know if I would. I'm like, even that, I'm like debating myself.
So
the problem is Eric Anders took him down 3 times, and that was just a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just so impressed with Park in his last few fights. I mean, bro, he looked so good in the Duraev fight.
Yeah.
I know he's fought 2 bums before that. But Eric Anders has looked good recently.
He's been doing to bums what you should do to bums, right? Decent. Like, so it's right. Like it's hard to knock him when he's been completely destroying those dudes. So like, I think he's very good. As my model, by the way, has Park at -125 in this fight, so it would also straight pick him. But that does leave the value on Muniz. I think I disagree from my model. I think I would pick just a straight up pick, like in a pick'em contest. I think I'd take Muniz. I just think it's a good matchup for him.
The fight to go the distance is +160.
Okay.
Andre Muniz by decision +500. You know, that to me is an interesting.
My model's showing value on decision at that number. I've got it 47.3%. So +160.
For Muniz or for the fight to just go the distance?
Fight to go the distance. Fight to go the distance.
Okay. Yeah, that to me is interesting because I think Park is good enough and well-rounded to maybe not get finished, and maybe Muniz just dominates with the wrestling. Like, think about it. If he's a better version of Eric Anders, Anders went to a split decision with Park. Like, maybe Muniz wins a unanimous decision. +500 is not a bad look there.
Hey,
I like Park's durability.
I've got his decision at exactly +300. So I'm showing value on Muniz by decision. I've got it at +300. Books are giving you +500. Maybe FanDuel gives us 6-1.
Yeah.
So
and then you got Muniz. If he goes out there and subs him in round 1, that's +600.
Yeah.
What round 1 subs does he have?
I feel like Park's.
You know what's crazy is I bet I'm almost getting deja vu here because the first time I ever bet on Andre Muniz, I was in person.
Yeah.
And it was which fight was it? Blanket. The Uriah Hall fight.
Ooh.
And I was at Circa Sportsbook, and I got him to win by decision at +800. And my greedy ass put it in a 2-leg parlay. And it hit. And then the second leg lost. And it was like 1,000 to win 20,000. And guess what the second leg is?
I want to. I'm going back to the fight card. I want to guess.
Please guess, because you're gonna die when you hear this.
Oh, and was it Holloway by decision?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Oh, was it something to do with Sean O'Malley with that no contest?
Jim Miller, Donald Cerrone. Guess what I had?
Oh no, you had knockout and he got a submission, right?
I had Jim Miller by knockout as the second leg against Donald Cerrone, and the Uriah Hall fight was the first was 3 fights before that. So I had Andre Muniz by decision at plus 800. And then I had Jim Miller by knockout was like plus 400 or something.
Yeah.
I forget what the number was, but it was like 1,000 to win 20 grand at Circa. And when I tell you, when Cerrone, I think it was a guillotine, right?
Yep.
Or Jim Miller guillotine Cerrone, I was sick to my stomach, bro. I was like, you can't knock. And this is, again, everyone looked back on it and was like, dude, why would you not take Jim Miller by submission? But like, Jim Miller was feeling his hands, bro. Fight before that, knocks out Nicholas Mata, knocks out Gonzalez 2 fights before that, and Cerrone's chin was done at that point.
Dude,
like, was
yeah,
done.
It was a club and sub. You had the right read there.
No, I think Cerrone shot it. Maybe it was, but I think Cerrone shot something and he just guillotined him. Yeah. I can't remember, but I think I would have remembered if it was a club and sub because then it would have been even a sicker beat. But it was crazy.
I'm pretty sure he hurt him to get him into that submission. Here's my photographic memory. That was the first time UFC prelims were on ABC. That because Strike plus C, Brad Tavares was on there. Ian Gary debuted on there. I don't think it was his debut. I think it was the Gabe Green fight. So like, I remember the card well. I had Cannonieri over Adesanya in the main event. I would like to see that fight ran back now in 2023 with how those guys look. So good card. Good time.
Last thing I'll bring up on this fight, if to the people watching, if you're gonna bet Andre Muniz here, do you take it today or do you wait? Because I think that number is gonna go down.
It's already
it hasn't already.
It's plus 144 on FanDuel. You want to get in the pool as soon as possible. Sharp money is absolutely behind Muniz. I talked to both Sharps. Both of them loved Muniz as well. So like it's moving quick.
That's what I figured. You know what's crazy is if
put up Jake's comment. He said, "When do you want to get in on Muniz?" The answer is yesterday.
Yesterday. Good call. That's sick. If it gets too low, I'm gonna have to take a look at Park just because he's my guy, man. I love that dude. But man, I think it's a tough match. I think he's gonna get taken down.
Great fight for both guys. Definitely, we'll know a lot about the winner in that one. I actually really like this matchmaking too. Again, I'm a fan of this main card here. Nazaret Haqparast, Jamie Malarkey floating around right outside the light heavyweight rankings. Like Nazaret's been around a long time, fought a lot of dudes, almost kind of fights the same fight every time. It feels like, and then Jamie Malarkey on the other side. Boy, oh boy, get on the gambling roller coaster with him because we have the giant upset loss with Muhammad Naimov when Naimov was making that debut on day's notice. You and I tossed John Makdessi in the parlay down in Australia on the Sean Strickland Izzy card. Got robbed on the decision there. Like a lot of folks thought Makdessi won the fight. Went to Malarkey in his home country there, so maybe a little bit of home cooking. But like Jamie's also had some really good wins as well. I don't want to disparage him. Totally took down, dominated Francisco Prado, which looks better every time we see Prado. So these guys are both pretty accomplished. I think it's an interesting stylistic matchup. Do you have a specific lean with Nazaret, a decent size favorite at minus 215?
Yeah, I think he's a good favorite, truthfully.
Okay.
But like, I don't know how I would bet him. I guess maybe even money line. Thing about Jamie Malarkey is I can't get a read on him when he's going to get finished or when he's going to survive. When you just look at this dude's face, he just looks like someone's going to get knocked out. But then
he look did at Jalen Turner. Jalen Turner absolutely ragdolled him.
Yeah. And that loss hasn't aged too badly, honestly. He made it to the second round. But no, I don't know. I like Nazaret. He did lose that decision to Bobby Green. Bobby Green pieced him up, outstruck him 188 to 76.
Can I say something quickly? I tweeted this last week. Bobby Green and Kevin Holland sucker me in, like, because I'm in love with the skills. I'm in love with the tangent. And then they goof off like Bobby was doing on Saturday. And he ended up getting face planted on the canvas with one of the worst stoppages you've ever seen. I don't think Bobby was taking that nearly as seriously as he should have with the danger coming back his way. Kevin Holland does the same thing. It frustrates me. I should just ban both of them for my own good.
No, I'm with you on that because with Holland, he cares more. I mean, we saw it in the Wonder Boy fight, and then the JDM fight felt like a sparring match. Like, it's just so strange.
Yeah,
we need these fighters to bet their entire purses on themselves and take it seriously.
Okay. We need you guys to break the code of conduct for us. So what is it? Which skill is it? Like, you like Haqparast just because he can keep his feet here? Probably the better striker of these two, which I'd probably agree with.
Yeah, I think he's the better striker. I think Malarkey's striking defense is concerning, and just the ability to take the power shots at times.
Yeah.
I actually think Malarkey could outstrike him though, but I think Nazaret could land the bigger shots.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Malarkey is just so strange, man. Split decision win over Michael Johnson. I don't know what to do with him, truthfully.
Here's my issue with Hackparas being coming at this price. If it was a pick, this is a fight where if it was a pick 'em, I'm on the same side. Like I think Nazaret would win. He has a hard time like covering these big numbers. Like Landon Quinones in his last fight, kind of a close fight. Like, and he was a minus 500 favorite. Like if you had him in a parlay, you were sweating that the entire time because he never really separated. And same thing with John McDessie. Actually had a negative striking differential in that fight. He's interestingly enough, he's gotten 3 short notice opponents in his last 6 fights, which is typically a trend that I try to fade because short notice opponents are usually a layup for whoever is remaining on the card. Like it's just kind of a little sweet deal of you get this free win, the other guy gets a chance to be in UFC type of thing typically. So like there's a little bit of overvalued there. I think a very important fight for me to go back and watch based on what my model spit out for me was when Nazaret fought Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker took him down 3 times on 7 attempts, controlled him for over 7 minutes. Dan was actually very successful with his wrestling, and that is what Jamie Malarkey is pretty good at. 2.46 takedowns per 15, averages about 7.5 attempts per 15. Like, Hackbaras's takedown defense is good on paper, but I would think Jamie Malarkey is just a better pure wrestler than Dan Hooker. Like Dan is a better MMA fighter, don't get me wrong, but just in that one specific element, I think Malarkey is a better wrestler. And I feel like this could be a guy that shits a lot of parlays this week where Malarkey just goes to his wrestling, goes to top control, ends up stealing a couple of rounds. He's done a lot of tight decisions. Both of these guys are. So I wouldn't want to lay the chalk here, but I also don't know how badly I want to get to the window with Malarkey.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, like the fight to go the distance is minus 210, and honestly, I don't hate that number.
I'm showing value in there.
Nazaret 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight decision fights.
Yep.
I think Malarkey can survive. I think, like you said, he can utilize the wrestling. Malarkey by decision at plus 400. I would bet that way quicker than taking his money line.
Good.
I think that's a good number. You know, his last 3 decision fights, he's won either by unanimous or split decision. So he edges out those decision wins on volume. So I think that's something to look at here is both of those bets.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I've got this fight to go the distance at minus 445. So just for reference, I'm showing value at minus 210. So there's a lot of juice on there, but I think it's warranted. And like another important thing about that, neither of these guys are sub guys. So you'll eliminate one of the early win conditions for either of them. Nazaret, not a sub guy. Jamie Malarkey, just 0.1 attempts per 15 minutes doesn't really do it.
Yeah.
So
I'm down to throw that in our parlay at minus 210. I think it's
I think it's a perfect piece for our parlay. We'll come back to that for sure. Great call. Great call. It's a perfect type of unanimous like parlay piece that we're showing value on. So this fight got a little bit different yesterday. I was thinking we were going to talk about another shoot box guy with Alan Nascimento taking on Sumadri. In steps awkward Tim Elliott. Like got a brand new deal for taking this fight. It'll happen at 135, even though both of these guys are flyweights here. I've seen some other lines. FanDuel does not have a line on this, but I've seen some other sports books as Tim Elliott is a favorite here.
Check it out.
Which like I understand, but also never feels good. And like I had to really peel back the onion again on that one. So Tim Elliott, it very, very interesting that he stepped in on short notice here. I think I know why. Like, do you have a strong opinion on either one of these guys? Like, it's been a while since we've seen Sumadri, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so first of all, Tim Elliott right now is a minus 160 favorite.
Yeah.
The over 1.5 is favored, minus 185.
Interesting.
Here's what I'll say. I'm scarred from Tim Elliott's last fight, if you remember what I had.
Yeah,
I had
you had round 1, 2 sub, right?
I had Muhammad Makayev round 1 and 2 submission, and that fucker got it in round 3. I almost punched the hole through my TV.
Yeah.
I was so pissed. But no, I mean Tim Elliott looked good until he didn't. You know, he was outstriking him 30-14 up until that round 3 submission. He looked really good in that fight, and I was so mad at having a bad read there. I should have went 2-3 instead of 1-2.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is interesting. He's a minus 160 favorite here on short notice. Tough one for me. I need to watch more footage on this for sure.
Well, you're going to enjoy it because Sumadri's fight against Matt Schnell last year was like a fight of the year contender when Sumadri had him hurt early, dropped him. Schnell was able to come all the way back in Long Island got the
Yeah.
second round submission, just a wild.
Oh my god, that fight was fucking insane.
Yeah, I was jumping up and down. I had actually just moved that day, so like I was tired, I was sore. I had recorded the fights because they took place during the day. I was still jumping up and down, even though every ounce of my body hurt. That's how excited I was for that fight. And like, look, I liked Tim Elliott in that Makayev fight. I tried to talk you onto him. You didn't listen to me, which is totally fine because like he makes dumb mistakes like he did in the third round. But like he fought very well in the first 2 rounds of those fight. And Makayev is really strong at what Elliott does well. Like he's a wrestler, he's a grappler. That's what he does. And some interesting nuggets for this fight. Tim Elliott not knocked out in any of his 19 UFC fights, which is a big, big thing against a guy that has as much power that Sumajiri has shown. Elliott's problems have come 4 losses by submission. Like he's gotten caught by Brandon Royval there, got caught by Makayev. I think he got caught by Joseph Benavidez back in the day. Like
these are good guys. These are good submission guys. Like there's no shame in getting caught by those guys.
Yeah, and Sumajiri doesn't do that at all. Like, in fact, we saw he's like a white belt when Matt Schnell was able to get him to the ground. Matt Schnell had like a gash in his forehead and was able to get him to the ground and submit him. Like, we figured out quickly, Sumajiri, very one-dimensional striker. His takedown defense is not ideal with that the case at 66%. Like, it's good. Like, that's fine. But like a guy like Tim Elliott will keep coming and coming and coming, and I think his wrestling is really good. But I should have phrased that differently, otherwise they're gonna clip that on memes and social media phrases. But hey, there's a Gina Mazzani joke somewhere in here. But like I understand why Tim is favored in this fight because Sumajiri looked so bad on the ground in his last fight against Schnell, and Elliott's a better wrestler and grappler. I trust his chin. I trust his 56% striking defense. I think he took this fight on short notice for a reason. Remember, he just 100%. Laid on top of Victor Altamirano. Could kind of do something similar here.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think there's a reason he's a favorite on short notice here. I think you nailed it. Like, you know, the KO durability. And I think he's a solid favorite here. But man, that Matt Schnell fight was insane, bro. I remember I want to say I took a bad beat in that fight.
I think I did as well. I liked Sumajiri because Matt Schnell had much worse striking defense than Tim Elliott does. Oh, some chin issues, like he got clubbed and subbed by Royval. Like I liked Sumajiri in that fight, but also my concern with Sumajiri, here are his fights before Schnell: Zaruk Adashev, Malcolm Gordon, Andrei Sukumtov, Louis Smolka.
Which he got subbed.
And he got subbed by Smolka. He also got subbed by Schnell. And like I think Tim Elliott's the best grappler of those 3.
Tim Elliott, round 2-3 sub. That's the play.
Okay. I just hope he doesn't get it done in round 1 if you're on that. I think I'm just gonna play sub straight because I don't
those numbers aren't up yet since it's short notice, even on the sketchy offshore sites. All I see is money line in total, but I agree with you on this one. I think we'll probably just look at the sub prop.
Yeah, for sure.
Sub decision, double chance, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know if that'll be too different from his money line, just because like
probably minus 140, minus.
Let me. Does Elliott have a UFC win by knockout of any kind? I'm looking here. No, he doesn't. He's had all of his fights have been decided by sub decision. That knockout line is going to be wide, and he's not really a guy that typically uses his hands in those situations. Like if there was a fight I thought he would have had. If there was a fight that I thought he would have had like a striking advantage, it probably would have been this last one against Makayev, and he was more than willing to work from bottom instead. So, I think they did well, by the way, to put Tim in there. It's a competitive, interesting fight, and I think this one's a competitive, interesting one as well. You got a couple of ranked 205ers in there. I'm glad they got a decent co-main event for this because it was looking pretty rough before this. Khalil Roundtree Jr. robbed you and I, most notably, you and I both love Dustin Jacoby. I threw 5 units on him against Roundtree. That decision, it eats me to this day. I will never forget that decision against Jacoby. But Roundtree honestly looked great in his last fight, knocked out Chris Dawkins really quick, very easy. And then Anthony Smith, the guy you and I have had our trials and tribulations with as well. We both liked Ryan Spann against Anthony Smith. Lionheart had different plans. He's such a weird dude to handicap. This is a weird fight. It's volatile. Maddie, what are you thinking here between a couple of guys that have not always been kind to us?
I can't bet against Anthony Smith at that type of chalk. I just can't do it. I 100% cannot do it. I like Anthony Smith here. I'm not doubting this dude anymore. I don't care about his age. I don't care about what we think his durability is. the Magomed Ankalaev fight, he was hurt or injured in that fight. I don't know whether it was going into it or during the fight, but like
Sure.
it was very evident and clear to me that I think if they fought and he was fully healthy, I think he at least makes it the distance there. I don't think Khalil Roundtree finishes him. I think Anthony Smith can use the wrestling, the grappling. I'm just done doubting him even at this age. Like
Yeah.
when that Ryan Spann fight, man. I mean, Ryan Spann did the one thing that does concern me is I think Ryan Spann just has the shittiest fight IQ in the UFC,
Yeah.
at least top 5, and
Yeah.
he did almost have him finished. I think late in that first round, I think it was up against the fence. Like I'm pretty sure. So I have to go back and rewatch that fight. So that's the one thing that does concern me. And Khalil Roundtree is the real deal. There's no doubt about it. But like, how do you feel about just the grappling here? But like, I just think that Anthony Smith can make it an ugly fight.
Yeah, like I will be so, Lionheart, he had that come from behind win years and years ago via sub against Alexander Gustafsson, right? And like the thing that I always will, I don't think, can you put up the comment from Stewart, the most recent one in there? I also agree with this. I think Anthony Smith sucks compared to a lot of these top level 205 guys. But the thing that you have to give Anthony Smith is his durability. Last 2 knockouts that he suffered hasn't been subbed since the COVID break. Last 2 knockouts he suffered. Glover Teixeira, it was via pure exhaustion in the 5th round. If you guys remember that fight, very shortly after the COVID break.
I posted a video of that. I don't know if you saw it. I was on my Instagram. I memed it the other day.
Yeah.
Where I was basically like, "This is what my bookie says to me." And I don't know if you remember that exchange in the 5th round.
Yes, I do.
Glover's just on top of him. He's like, I forget what he said. Is pretty much like, "I'm sorry, bro. Like I have to do this."
Yeah.
And he's like, "It's part of the job." Or Anthony says like it's part of the job. It was just hilarious that they're talking to each other like that while he's just beating his ass on the ground.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, you can get to the 5th round with Glover. Like again, that Magomed Ankalaev fight, I'm gonna throw that out. I mean, he was getting beat up.
He broke his leg. Yeah, he broke his leg.
Right.
So
right. And this is a 3-rounder, right? It's a 3-round fight.
Yeah, it's only a 3-rounder, which does take away some of the like 5-round cardio concerns. I will say I don't think Anthony Smith's wrestling is great. Averages about 2 takedown attempts per 15, lands about a quarter of those, so it's not ideal. But he did take Ryan Spann down last time, and the thing is, I think Khalil Roundtree is a terrible defensive wrestler. Like that's why I was on Chris Daukaus against him in the last fight, is I thought Daukaus would show us a little bit more skill. Instead, he charged face first into the pocket and ate a big shot. But like Smith to me is so much more durable than a guy like Chris Daukaus, and that's going to have Roundtree uncomfortable. And whenever you've had Roundtree in a position where he hasn't been able to get the quick knockout, it's been pretty ugly. Like you and I both thought Dustin Jacoby won that fight. He had a negative 35 striking differential there. Marcin Prachnio dominated this dude in a 3-round fight. Iwan Cutelaba took him down 4 times and elbowed him in the face. I mean, Cutelaba, go back and watch it. Didn't take very long. He mauled him in that fight with his wrestling. I don't know if Lionheart's the best wrestler, but to me, this reminds me of when he fought Devin Clark. And we were like, well, Devin Clark had won a couple fights in a row. And Anthony Smith said there are levels to this game. And he took him down and submitted him very quickly. I think he could take down and submit Roundtree very, very quickly in this fight. Roundtree is a white belt on the ground. And no, I don't know what he's been training in Thailand. Last time we saw him have to really defend advanced wrestling attacks was that Cutelaba fight. So they've really avoided those sort of matchups for him. But now in the rankings, you don't get a choice. And Lionheart is a guy, ton of UFC wins by sub. Pretty active there, 0.7 attempts per 15. I love Lionheart by sub in this fight. It's one of my favorite prop bets on the main card.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I was leaning more around 2-3 sub though. But I mean, he definitely could get that done the more I think about it. But how do you feel about Roundtree's kicks? Because like I know like the legs of Anthony Smith and knee issues. Like,
yeah,
how do you feel about Roundtree's ability to hurt him down there? Because I'm with you. I think Anthony Smith is. I think people have this illusion in their head that Anthony Smith is like washed and not durable, and I don't think it's true.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't think Roundtree I don't think his kicks have any sort of special impact that like Ryan Span's and Johnny Walker's wouldn't. Right? Johnny Walker attacked his leg in that fight when Anthony Smith and him went the distance. You remember I came on here and I said like my model had that fight like 97% to like finish early, and then they end up going the distance because Johnny Walker was willing to play the long game, and he even said I wanted to show I can go 15 minutes. So like I wish I knew he wanted to do that before I bet fight doesn't go the distance. But
and then Anthony Smith started like talking about his family and had Johnny Walker all confused.
Yeah, I mean, like when you look at Anthony Smith's competition level, I have a 0 to 100 score on his competition level. I've got Anthony Smith's competition level at 90 versus Roundtree at 55. Like Roundtree
here's crazy. Do you think Anthony Smith could get a knockout here? Because even a ground and pound, and we saw what Ian Kutalaba did. He gets the takedown and he just, what was it, elbows? I think it was elbows on the ground.
Yeah, like I don't hate that. Like, and especially Roundtree, by the way, 50% striking defense, concerningly low. And it wasn't that long ago that Lionheart dropped Ryan Spann twice, ended up submitting him in that kind of the first fight those two had, right? Not the one that didn't go the distance, but like, and by the way, he got a leg injury on Jimmy Crute. Like, Lionheart has better power than I think we give him credit for. Like the last time he had a standing knockout was like Shogun Hua and Rashad Evans, so that was a long time ago. But I got power.
The problem with the knockout prop, and this makes no sense to me, but plus 500 on an Anthony Smith knockout, plus 500 on an Anthony Smith submission. Yeah. We're definitely, if it's the same number, we're definitely going to go submission. And then Anthony Smith by decision is plus 600.
Interesting. So the odds makers are telling us it's pretty even for Anthony across the board as far as as finishing outcome. But like
Roundtree by knockout is minus 120. By decisions plus 500, and then there's a long shot for you if you want Khalil Roundtree by submission plus 2,000.
Doesn't it feel a little bit like the Muniz Park fight where like you'd be buying Roundtree at his apex, 4-fight winning streak, some cool knockouts mixed in there. I dismantled Carl Roberson, but here's the problem: Carl Roberson stinks. Like I say Anthony Smith stinks at a certain level, but I'm talking about within the rankings. Carl Roberson just flat couldn't fight in UFC, especially at 205. So
the only win I like out of Roundtree is that Dustin Jacoby win, but it was a win.
It was a robbery.
Yeah, I'm just so big on Dustin Jacoby, man. It's funny. He posted on his Instagram story the other day that odds makers now have his odds listed as a 2024 champ. It's like a big long shot. Don't get me wrong, but like he's in the mix at least. Dustin Jacoby to be a champ. It was like I think it was like 50 to 1 or something. But no, I'm high on Dustin Jacoby, man.
Me too.
I mean, look, we hit big on him. We had that. That video, that round 1 knockout on Dustin Jacoby, on Kennedy, and man, that was a sick hit. That was one of my favorite hits.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think this is a good buy low spot on Anthony Smith, Agreed. And I think this fight's much closer to a pick'em.
You know why I feel so comfortable here, and like our chat in particular looks like a lot of them do like Anthony Smith. It's a little bit split, but like most of the money is coming in on Roundtree. I would expect this line to balloon in the other direction. Like a lot of the public prefers Khalil in this spot. Like there are a lot of unranked guys at 205 that I think I'd take over Khalil. Like I think Kennedy Nzechukwu beats him. We saw E1 beat him, and E1 has really had trouble staying in the 205 rankings. So, like, Roundtree has been very fortunate to get where he's got because Chris Daukaus wasn't really a ranked win either. We didn't know what Chris was going to be, and him and Kyle can't take punches to save their life at this point. So, I think Roundtree has been dismantled every time he's been in this level of competition. I know Anthony Smith has been a guy that I faded pretty religiously when he fought Rakic, when he fought Ankalaev, when he fought a lot of these guys. But there's levels to this game, and I think Lionheart gets it done.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say is I just think Roundtree is a completely different guy than when he fought Kutalaba in 2019.
I don't. I think I think his Muay Thai is better, but like I'm still concerned about the defensive grappling. Like we haven't seen it tested, so like the way I work as a data guy, until I have a different sample that says otherwise.
Well, remember we thought maybe Chris Daukaus was going to finally show some BJJ or some wrestling. Nothing. He just gets knocked out halfway through the first round. So tough fight. But you're right. Like Jacoby, Daukaus, Robertson didn't even attempt to take down.
Yeah.
Modestas, Yeah, that's crazy.
I will say, I'm not. I want to give full transparency to the audience. I've been on the other side of Roundtree for his last 3 fights. Like Bukauskas was the last time I backed him, so I have not been profitable with Roundtree. So like, take that as you will. Just for full transparency. But main event time. You could argue that Smith and Roundtree could be the main event potentially, but this one's still a very good ranked bantamweight banger here. Song Yadong, a guy I know you're very high on because you and I have talked. 25-year-old. He's just so good for how young he is. And then on the other side here, kind of a wily vet of the game. Really had to work his way up from the bottom, coming back over from Japan. Chris El Guapo Gutierrez, really great technical striker. Coming from the same camp as Jonathan Martinez in the same division. So these guys are really, really good. Bantamweight is a loaded division. Wide odds here in Song Yadong's favor. I think you and I would both straight pick him, so that's not overly surprising. But what are your thoughts on this betting line in this matchup?
I'm a big Song Yadong guy. That's my guy.
Yeah.
I'm biased. I had him round 5 knockout against Ricky Simone at 30-1. One of my favorite hits of all time. I posted it. He followed me on the gram. That's my boy. So I'm biased here. But here's the thing. I want to run it back, bro. So I want to ask you, is this a 1-2-3 type of knockout or like a 3-4-5? How do you feel about Chris Gutierrez in this fight? Because I'm struggling with, like, I do think Song Yadong's going to find his chin. I really do. But like Gutierrez has been solid on the feet.
Yeah.
You know, he's just been like, even in the last fight, you know, he looked really, really good. Outstruck, 110-38. The Pedro Munoz fight was, I think, like a good loss for him, where like it was a good experience. But like he's fought, like, I don't really see outside of the Pedro Munoz fight, like, I mean, Frankie Edgar towards the end.
Retirement fight, yeah.
Who has he really fought that is anywhere close to
Yadong's
as good
level.
as Song Yadong? Yeah, I think he's really elite, bro. Even in that Corey Sandhagen fight, if that I think it was like a gash above his eye or something, he was right in that fight in the 4th round. It was just a bad cut. Like, he's in, I think, the world of Corey Sandhagen. Like, so I gotta go with Song here. Yeah. I'm just trying to figure out the best angle to play it at.
Yeah, I haven't had very much luck with this in recent weeks. So I texted you, I think Monday morning. I was like, I'm already dreading our show this week because of how my model spit out like lines for this week.
Yeah.
Like, I have not been doing very well with these older underdogs like Benny Dariush last week, wily vets, good track record, and then just things kind of fall apart. Like, I'll be outright and say my model's got Chris Gutierrez favored to win this fight, and I understand why. It's because it's got him 85.2% likely to have a positive striking differential in this fight, which is like, he has never had a negative distance striking differential in his entire UFC career, which I totally understand. Whereas Song struggled against Kyler, which Kyler Phillips is a really talented guy. He's got his warts, but really talented guy. Cheeto, very, very close fight. Like, I think you could have gone either way with that decision. The thing about Song's last fight against Ricky Simone, it was really tailor-made for him to win, right? Hey, can you put that up? This model's tripping because, I would not favor Gutierrez here myself, but I'm just telling you guys why it is this way. It's because where I think Song's edge in this fight would be with his power. And he's got a big old knockdown rate, 1.08%. That's really nice for bantamweight. Lots of power. But Gutierrez, 57% striking accuracy. Yadong, just 42%. Gutierrez, 65% striking defense, which is a very important indicator of trading and exchanges. Song Yadong, still very strong market, 59%. But like, Gutierrez is a guy that my model would have a very hard time not favoring in a striking match against other guys. And the problem is, I talked to a guy who thinks Song Yadong comes out and wrestles in this fight and can have a lot of success. And I don't necessarily disagree with that because
I agree.
Gutierrez struggled against Cody Durden. And that was back when Durden was fighting at 135. He went to a draw with him. And he hasn't really faced a lot of wrestlers. But the problem is, for me in that sense, and I agree with it, my model predicts Song to be the better wrestler, better grappler. Totally get that. Totally understand it. Is that Song really hasn't been very voluminous about doing that. My concern, if you're a Song Yadong backer here, is that he plays around at distance, which I think is his hardest path to win this fight.
I agree. I think he's going to utilize the wrestling, though. I mean, 2 takedowns, the one against Corey Sandhagen. I think that's in his back pocket, and I think that's going to be in his game plan for this fight. Because if
Yeah.
you can get some early takedowns against Chris in this fight,
Yeah.
the odds of him winning this fight are going to skyrocket.
Yeah.
He can get some ground and pound down there, and like again, the worst thing he can do is be at distance and
Yeah.
get his leg chopped up.
Yeah.
So
Song is 25 and he is greatly improving. And like I see a lot of picks like a Song knockout here. The way I do things, Gutierrez never been knocked out in UFC. I mentioned the differential, but like historically great chin. And by the way, excellent striking defense, 65%. That's 98th percentile here at bantamweight. It's one of the best you can get. And this guy's sparring with Jonathan Martinez every day. So he's probably doing okay with some of the leg kicks and things like that. So I don't think Yadong ices him. I think he could win rounds based on power moments. I think he can win rounds with his grappling. I would favor him here in a straight pick. I'm not on the same page as my model here, but I do think the betting value is on Gutierrez, and it all comes back to Song Yadong's game plan. And the question for me is, do you want to lay minus 390 on the basis of a game plan that Song has never executed before? The answer for me is no. But I know you turned to props, which is a totally different story. So
no, I'm not going to take Song's money line here.
What's this?
No, I want to see what his decision prop is.
Yeah.
Let me see here. And then as far as our parlay, let's do something different this week and build it in the upcoming days and put it out. We got to do something different because I think we're rushing it on the show.
Sure.
But here, let me see.
It works for me. I'd rather get FanDuel numbers anyway.
Yeah, I agree. So fight to go the distance is plus 110. Which is very interesting for it to be that short, like on a 5-rounder with these guys that both have good finishing abilities.
Yeah.
But yeah, Song by points is plus 155. I think that's the outcome. I think you nailed it. But I don't love that number by any means, though.
What was it? Plus 550?
Plus 155, Song by points.
Oh, wow. That's a dead game. But like, it kind of makes sense because the doctor's stoppage came at the end of the 4th round against Sandhagen. He went to the 5th round with Ricky Simone, and he was really dominating that fight. Like I felt like Song was in full control of that Ricky Simone fight. I was on the wrong side. I thought Ricky's wrestling efficiency would win out. When it became very early evident that he couldn't get takedowns, that was a bad night to be Ricky Simone against a guy as powerful as Song. But like Gutierrez is we know what Gutierrez is going to do. He's going to try to chop the leg. He's going to stay at distance. He's equally comfortable moving forward and back. And he's been incredibly durable with great defense. The number is not great on by points. I will bet Gutierrez by points in this spot, which is like I don't know. That'll be my only nibble at the fight. I'm not going to bet his money line. I don't think he can finish Song.
Yeah. Here's what I'll say.
Yeah.
We'll end with this. If I'm taking Song here, Gutierrez hasn't been finished, but I don't think he's been in a 5-rounder either, has he?
No, that was another thing I did want to bring up. This is his first 5-rounder.
So Song, to me, if you're going to play Song here, it's either by decision or it's rounds 3, 4, 5. And that's what I did against Ricky Simone. I took him rounds 3, 4, 5, sprinkle. Round 5 hit at 30-1. Right now on an offshore, round 3 knockout for Song is plus 850. Round 4 plus 11. Round 5 plus 1700. Obviously, those numbers will probably be higher on FanDuel. But I think I would look at a small sprinkle in those late 3 rounds here.
So what I would highly recommend is, because I think Gutierrez's weakest element of his game is his grappling defense. If Song gets on his back, I don't think he can get him off. And by the way, Song's first and only UFC win came via submission. It was a guillotine back in 2017. I would take the rounds because it's probably not going to be that different than round 3, 4, 5 KO. Be wary of the sub here. I just don't want you to get burned by that because I think Gutierrez is weakest. And I think Song, if Song's going to take the next leap from this fight doesn't do him very much because he's much higher ranked than Gutierrez, right? Showing off his grappling skills would be a way to make use of this fight, right? To show how well-rounded he is. I think Song, if he wins this fight, Petr Yan to me is the obvious matchup for him. Because we know what a championship caliber striker Petr Yan is. I think Song Yadong shows off a little bit of his wrestling and grappling if he indeed wins. My problem is I don't know if he's going to do it. And if you told me he was going to strike with Gutierrez for 25 minutes, I'd bet his money line for 2 units. I would, but I don't think that'll be the case. I think Song is going to show off a little bit of the grappling chops here.
I like it. I just DM'd him, so I'll keep you posted. I'm going to ask him if he's going to grapple.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so we may have
see
an
what he said.
exclusive here. Maddie, the answer to that DM might very well change my approach in this fight because I do think it's
Yeah.
about 40. And his grappling stats, very efficient. 55% takedown accuracy, 72% defense, just not much volume. That could
Yeah,
change in this fight. I think
for
that
sure,
could
for
change. I
sure.
think it'd be the smart way to approach it.
I like it. All right. Well, Austin and I are going to do a parlay in the next 48 hours. Guys,
Going
give
to
us a
last.
follow on Twitter. We will do a collab post. Let's call it by Thursday or Friday. We need more days to look at this parlay because we've been striking out on the show the last few shows. So
Yeah.
look out for that post on Twitter. And thank you for everyone that's tuned in on the show.
Yes.
We'll be live again next week. I think we're going to push the show back or forward an hour or so. So look for it. We have to talk about it, but it'll probably be around 7 or 8 p.m. Eastern.
Yep.
It definitely won't be as late as 8:30. So we will see everyone next week on the show.
Yeah, absolutely.